Coach. I'm a neurological occupational therapist and certified life coach, and I specialize in guiding people through their concussion recovery journey. I am passionate about helping people understand their injury, speed up their recovery, and reclaim control over their life post-concussion. The purpose of this podcast is to help increase awareness of concussions and the impact they can have on a person's life, and to bring hope to people who have suffered a concussion and those who love them. I firmly believe that sharing stories and knowledge about concussions will bring important light and understanding to this misunderstood and often invisible injury. The information in this podcast is meant to bring that awareness and hope and is not meant as medical advice. The opinions shared are those of the interviewees and my own. If you are suffering with lingering concussion symptoms, I have created a concussion coaching program specifically for you. I will be your mentor to guide you through your recovery journey, offering help with understanding and managing your symptoms, setting achievable goals, and learning how to manage your own thoughts and nervous system in order to get control over your life again. If this program sounds like something that would help you or someone you love, sign up for a free consultation. In the consultation, you'll get valuable information and resources and gain hope for your future. Sign up for your free consultation at the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Hi friends, welcome back to the Concussion Coach podcast. Before I introduce my guest today, I just wanted to make sure you all know about the free guide that is available on my website. It's the 5 best ways to support your loved one dealing with a concussion. If you have a friend or a family member who is struggling with post-concussion symptoms, or if you're the one struggling and would like your loved ones to know more about what you're going through and how they can help, head over to my website, theconcussioncoach.com, and download the free guide. My guest today is Jennifer Foltz. She works with people and animals through Biodynamic Craniosacral Therapy, yoga, and compassion-centered coaching. She specializes in supporting folks recovering from concussions, traumatic brain injuries, and strokes, as well as those dealing with anxiety, depression, chronic pain, migraines, and TMJ. Having walked through her own TBI recovery, Jennifer understands the importance of slowing down and listening deeply to the body's wisdom. Her work is shaped by years of practice with horses and dogs, dance, breath work, movement, and Tibetan Buddhist meditation. She creates a safe space where clients, both human and animal, can reconnect with their resilience, balance, and joy, making room for not just healing, but for creativity, playfulness, and what makes them come alive. So I'm so excited for this conversation. Thank you for being here, Jennifer.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear your story and how you're using all these cool modalities to help people. So let's start with you sharing a little bit about your injury, if that's okay. How long ago was it and what happened?
Yeah, I was involved in a plane crash in 2007. I was a bush pilot up in Alaska and had an engine failure. And so from that accident had many injuries, including a brain injury. And it actually didn't get much attention in the beginning because there were so many other things that I was relating to and healing from.
Yes, that happens.
Yeah, yeah, but then it set me off on a long healing journey where I discovered a lot of different, I think a lot of us say, well, we've tried everything, but I tried a lot of different things. And I would say I actively started working on healing my brain injury, not till about 5 years out from my injury. So, a lot of people say, oh, you have to heal it within the first 2 years, or there's no chance of healing your injury. And it's so not true. Maybe you've talked about that before, but just want to name that.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, it is important to let people know. And I really appreciate you sharing that. You didn't even start till 5 years after, and you're still able to get good progress. So I'm really curious why didn't you decide, or maybe it wasn't a conscious decision, but why did you wait 5 years before you focused on the brain injury specifically?
When I had my accident, I had broken bones and nerve damage and PTSD and had to have many surgeries and so forth. At the time, they did notice a little bruising on my back right occipital lobe, but not enough to name it a brain injury. And this was in 2007. A friend of my mom's recognized that I must have, and maybe recognized some symptoms. And she said, oh, Jen has a brain injury. But it just kind of got overlooked. I was having to learn to walk again. And there were so many other things. And so it wasn't until, I had been doing trauma therapy, more for PTSD, emotional work for many years. And it wasn't until I had been a couple years in that I started to see that there were symptoms that perhaps overlapped with PTSD trauma healing, but that were different. And I ran into a friend who also had had a brain injury, and she recommended a doctor, and she spotted it in me.
Okay. So, and it took that long before it was even really like brought fully to your attention and you were in a place to be able to focus on it.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. I think I also was in denial and I had a lot of resistance to it. I
Mm.
feel like having a brain injury, there's a lot of connotations and negative connotations that I had personally and I think in our culture. So I couldn't let that in. I think that might have been a part of it as well. And then
Mm.
finally, at a certain point, I was, deeply in my healing journey and I finally felt receptive and open to looking at that piece and getting help because there were things that weren't getting resolved through some
Mhm.
of these other therapies.
Yeah. Oh man, you just brought up so many things. It was like, thank you for sharing that. And it's so interesting and unfortunate, I think, that we have the negative connotations around it because it's like, it's, it's an injury. And I think it's because it cuts at the core of so much of who we are. Like, I think you tell me actually, tell me why, like, what do you think was the resistance? What was it that about a brain injury that made you not want to accept it like you accepted the broken leg or whatever else you had to heal?
I think as humans, and actually in our culture, so much of our value is placed on our ability and what we
Mhm.
can do and how we can be. And so much of our value is based on our intelligence and the scores we can make with school and so forth. And so, I think it's pretty threatening
Mhm.
to have to admit that we can't keep up with the Joneses. We
Mhm.
can't meet the bar, so to speak. So I think there's a lot of reasons why it was difficult to let that in, and it was difficult to accept and to be different, and also this feeling of not wanting to be looked down on or felt sorry for, because it is a different injury than breaking
Mhm.
your arm. Your
Right.
brain um, relates to all of our functioning.
Yes, it does. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And I do think that it does make sense. It makes a lot of sense that there would be resistance to that. And I appreciate that you, and I'm sure this is like a long journey in coming to this, but like where you're at right now, we can look back and see there was that resistance. And when I'm guessing, tell me if I'm wrong, when the acceptance happened, that's when you were able to start making progress in healing from those things. Is that?
Yes, that's absolutely right. And I would say acceptance is more of a journey than a final destination. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think there was uh, more acceptance and more time in to this new reality. I
Mm.
think there was so much shock and denial and just like, what just happened?
Yes. Well, yeah, and that's probably a good point too. Like, you don't know what happened. You don't know what exactly the results are, what it's going to play out as. And so there's probably a hesitation to just be like, yeah, this is what it is because you don't even know what it is quite yet. So it makes sense that it could take some time to be figuring all of those things out. And I love and appreciate that you're in a position now where you can talk about it, right? Like at first you didn't even want to like admit to yourself that it was real, and now here you are in a place where you're able to really serve and help people because you're able to talk about it. So I just want to thank you for your being willing to be open and vulnerable about this because I know
Absolutely.
it will help people. So thank you. So what were some of those symptoms when things kind of settled in and you figured out what was going on? What were some of the things that you were dealing with?
I mean, initially, the rage and the anger, which
Mm.
is so common with concussions and brain injuries, I was raging. I had had anger issues before, but it's like a switch flipped, and just so angry. I think also really, I went through my own existential crisis. Everything I thought was reliable and permanent and true changed overnight. And so, um, yeah, I was very angry. And I also had a lot of blind spots. I used to be really, really good at math. Math became difficult.
Mhm.
Maybe a little aphasia here and there, getting words mixed up. Memory challenges. I was still really highly functional, and healing from all these injuries and doing physical therapy and all the therapies. But the emotional regulation, that was another thing, really difficult to regulate my emotions. Also had no social filter, so, just blurting whatever was on my mind and saying what, I'm just speaking my truth, but not having that same filter I had before where there was this kind of discernment
Mhm.
uh, oh no, that's not, you don't really say that, or you wouldn't, like of considering others or how that might land. Like that just was gone. It was really innocent. It's really innocent. And I want people to know that, especially maybe folks in relation to someone who's had a concussion. Um,
Yes.
so those are
Yeah.
to name a few.
Thank you. And on that topic a little bit, I'm just curious, how did you, were you aware that you didn't have the filter, like, and was it like, I just don't care how it lands, or were you just not even conscious of how it might land?
Well, like both, like, not
Okay.
aware, but then your things blow up around you, like the reactions from people and, starting to get maybe a little reflection from people that I love or people
Mhm.
around me. But, a lot of people don't like conflict. And so, some people would just avoid or leave. So it's a
Mhm.
tricky thing. So, there was many ways that I started tuning into it. I was also in therapy. I was also in a meditation community where we're all looking at our minds and we're all working with emotions and our minds and so forth. So I was really in a fortunate place to be able to have that framework
Mm.
encouraged and supported.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. It can be helpful to have, like, it's not something you'll necessarily just come to on your own without some external guidance and help with reflecting what's going on for other, like seeing that. And the point you made about being in a group where people were doing a lot of self-reflecting and inner work, I think um that's something that is often challenging for people after a brain injury, is that self-awareness of even knowing what's going on, or how, yeah, how what you're saying or doing might be influencing other people, or even necessarily what's going on for you, and disconnecting from your own body, those kinds of things. So it's good to know that those were helpful for you in kind of coming back. Do you feel like, was there anything else that helped you with that, or where do you feel like you're at in that journey of that awareness and ability to socially clue in a little bit more?
Yeah, I think for folks out there too, they might not be in a community where they have all that support, but usually, I mean, hopefully we find it with our close friends and family. I think really it's taken a lot of patience on my end and for those that have been around me. I mean, like I was saying, I think acceptance, but also our self-awareness. It's a journey and
Mhm.
it doesn't happen overnight. And so it's something that's just continued to grow, especially with the intention to be open and to feel safe enough to be vulnerable and ask for feedback. And, like
Mhm.
those, those are very special things. And so wherever we can find that and try to be open and for to have a person that you can explore that with that is there for your well-being and they're not trying to hurt you and that you feel that there's so many pieces about that make that possible. So
Yes. One of my favorite phrases is healing happens in connection. And I think that co-regulation with somebody who loves you and is there for you and can, yeah, that's it. It is huge. There's cannot, that impact cannot be overestimated, I think is the way I want to phrase that. But yes, it's a big deal. So to all you loved ones out there who are that person for your person, thank you for what you're doing. It's worth it. It's good that you're doing that work. And what I'm just curious, when you had the plane crash, were you by yourself or were there other people involved with that?
No, it was my job, so I did have passengers with me on the plane. There were three other people on the plane, so
Mm.
yeah, but everything really came together in such a synchronistic way where help was there on the beach where we landed and got us to the hospital pretty quickly and um, so forth. So.
That's wonderful. And you've had a good, it sounds like you've had a good community around you to help you through all of this. I would sometimes I ask this later, but I think this is appropriate now. What would you say to the loved ones, the caregivers? Like what advice or recommendations do you have for them someone who's watching their loved one suffer with this?
First, I would say, I am so sorry for all that I've put you through. I am so sorry. Um, and thank you so much for your love and your kindness and patience and for hanging with me through the long haul of this journey because it's messy. I mean, any healing journey, but brain injury in particular, it can be really messy. And so, yeah, just thank you and take care of yourself and do the things that you need to do so you can keep going
Mm.
in a really genuine way and just know that that's not selfish, but that it's for this purpose to stay present and to stay resourced and charged and really available, and if we're running on fumes, we can't do that. So it's like that balance, and
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you. It means
That's
so
so beautiful.
much.
That's so beautiful. I think that's like you're speaking for all of the people out there who are speaking to their loved ones. And thank you for that. That's beautiful. So what things did you do or that helped? What therapies or treatments or things that you found to be helpful?
I mean, craniosacral therapy was one of the things that from the start, everywhere I moved a few different times throughout my journey of recovery, and every time there was a craniosacral therapist there. And I would say that modality in particular is the one modality that related to every type of injury that I've had.
Really?
Yeah, and it's strange because, it's not so well known, but whether it was nerve damage or a broken bone or a strained muscle or existential crisis or trauma, or my brain injury or regulating my nervous system or just resourcing me, giving me a reset where I feel fresh again and resilient, just so many things. I can't speak enough about it. But that aside, another thing I want to name is how important I feel trauma therapy or psychology, getting a therapist doing some somatic trauma work
Mhm.
is to do alongside whether you're doing physical therapy, occupational therapy, because I did those too. All of
Mhm.
them were really helpful, but just the changes that you go through and the stress on the family and yourself and the blind spots and just the acceptance journey. It's so much. And it's so to get support with that has been really, really powerful. In particular, I'm sure many listeners probably have heard of EMDR, which is a type of eye therapy and or tapping, or there's one I really love called somatic experiencing. And it's really body-based trauma work that slows everything down and really relates to releasing it from the tissues and from your body. So um, those were great. Also, I did some light therapy for some time, Feldenkrais, physical therapy, uh,
Mhm.
a lot of body-based dance, somatic body awareness practices that really helped.
Hmm, very cool. And were the dance things specifically for brain injury, or it was just like a class that you joined and it was very helpful?
They were for the joy. I mean,
Love
really, it's like to bring in that peace, which is so important for our healing, to not just get focused on
that.
need to fix, but like what brings me back to myself. Initially it's like, oh my gosh, I love to dance, and there's all these teachers and they're teaching how to bring awareness to our body and how to feel and where to place our attention. And wow, that really makes a difference in how I move in the world when I have my attention in my feet and I'm walking around feeling my feet. Changes everything. Try it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a client who is in college right now. She's in a dance class and she's like, this is as she talks to me about it and what like the impact it has on her. I'm like, this is fantastic therapy for you. It's not meant to be therapy. It's like not advertised as a therapy thing, but it is so good. And like just that the coordination, the awareness, the body like sense and proprioception. Like there's just so much cross body movements, all of it. It just is very, very good. And also the cardio aspect. Like there's just so much. So yeah, like these things that people, if it's something that brings you joy and it's like bringing these other, it doesn't have to bring therapeutic aspects into it, but it just like naturally does it. It's just really cool. So I love
Yeah.
that. And I love that you said that it brings in the joy. Like that is so important. And I love that point you made. Thank you. Sorry, keep going. Are there other things that you've found to be very helpful for your?
Um, I mean, really, I think, and this is hard. I feel like I was running 100 miles an hour before my accident, and that the life I was living and who I was and the capacity I had, and
Mm,
so this point of like really deliberately slowing down, and my accident and my healing recovery definitely slowed me down, but still we have these habits of speed in our mind and our body, and it's challenging whether we've had a concussion or not. It's challenging for all of us to try to slow down and rewire our nervous system, all of these things. But I would say, yeah, finding more time to rest and get out in nature and, some of these basic things that we're all attempting to do. And we all know, not specific to brain injury recovery, but just it's almost like life recovery, life enrichment, I would say,
yes.
been really important.
Yes. I think that's a really good point. Like there was something else I don't even remember what it was, but we were talking about earlier that um I was thinking, man, this is so good for anybody. Like all of us need these things, like that increased body awareness, that like rest and peace, and like figuring out how to slow down. Like there's so many things that would be good for everybody. And I think sometimes there's a brain injury really like narrows the focus on that. Like the need for it is heightened and so it's kind of forced to happen. And it's actually a really beautiful thing to like,
Yes. No,
yeah.
it's good you're naming that. I often say that too, like, what's the gift opportunity of this?
Mm,
And at first we're so like, it's so painful and we're trying to relate and change, but there's so many gifts. We have to slow down. We're forced to. We're forced to take breaks because our brain can only take in so much stimulation and so
mhm.
much information before we've got to take a break and rest and refresh. So it just changes the whole pacing of our life. And, you see more when you go slow. It's
Mhm.
like taking a walk versus driving down the street. Same street. You're
Huh.
going to notice more of what's around you by slowing down.
Wow, that really hit me for some reason. That's a powerful thought. Thank you. You see more when you slow down. I'm writing that down. Um, wow, thank you. I'll need to remember that for myself.
You said a few things too. I'm like, oh gosh, proprioception, that's so important. Some of the things you said has
Yeah.
been.
Thanks. Yeah, there's so much goodness here. Okay, so tell us, because I want to jump into, I love that you're sharing these things, and I actually kind of want to jump into some of them a little bit more.
Yeah, wherever you want
Actually,
to go. It's
yeah, I want to just point out I'm glad that you named all these things because I think that all of them I have heard of and have positive associations with. Like, so I think it would be helpful if you're, someone listening out there hears this and is like, I've never heard of that before, or should I look into this? Like, it's worth looking into and seeing. Again, not everything is going to help everybody, and depending on where you're at in the healing journey, some things may resonate more than others. And so, but I appreciate you naming the things that were helpful for you throughout this process for you, and hopefully people can look into those. So I'm just going to like name them again really quick, and then I want to just make a couple comments about a couple of them. So craniosacral therapy, which we will chat more about, trauma therapy, that somatic, like body traumatic work, trauma work, I think is important. That book, The Body Keeps the Score, I've read that, and like it's so true. Like we have our bodies keep track of a lot of things that we're not even aware of, and that's the source of a lot of the it can be underlying for a lot of autoimmune issues or other like issues that we have in our bodies that we wouldn't necessarily understand are connected to the previous trauma, but it really does make a difference. And so I appreciate you bringing out that trauma, the somatic work that can be so helpful. Light therapy, Feldenkrais method with PT or massage. I think there's a few different practitioners. I think OTs can also do Feldenkrais. So if I'm right, I don't know, but I've heard of it before. So body-based dance, resting, getting out in nature, slowing down. I just thank you for sharing all of those things. And like I said, we'll dive more into the craniosacral in a little bit. But if I'd love to ask people this question, and I assume that it's a process, but maybe you can like phrase it for us in a way that makes sense for you. What were things that were most helpful for you in discovering and loving yourself post-concussion? Because like you said, everything, the
Yeah.
pace, everything just kind of changed. How did you figure out even who you were again and
Yeah, that's
through
such
the
an important
process?
question. There's a couple of things that come to mind. First and foremost, I said this earlier. I was raging. I was raging at God, the universe, life. I was so upset. I felt so betrayed because all of a sudden everything changed and everything I thought was reliable wasn't. And so I felt really lost for some time in my heart and mind, and the rage and all these symptoms. But I also had just prior to that connected with and gone to a meditation retreat in the Buddhist tradition, and yeah, that really became a source of refuge for me and helped me kind of put all the pieces back together. I felt like my whole mind and life and everything was shattered, and everything I believed in wasn't true, wasn't reliable. I didn't feel held. I felt it was really scary to be in those places. I think probably similar to people who come back from war or get a cancer diagnosis, or like these things that we encounter in life. And one thing that I so appreciate, there's so many things I appreciate about Buddhism, but one thing that was really helpful is how they are pointing to everything's impermanent,
Mm,
everything will change. So my idea that it had to stay the same, and it would like that was an illusion.
mm,
And I'm raging and feeling betrayed, but actually this is the way things are. So there's so many things that they point to just about like truths of life that were so grounding and stabilizing for me. And
mm,
then another such important part is they're helping us wake up to the truth of life and relationship and how things function, but also how to relate to our anger and our jealousy and our getting lost in attachment and or greed. Like, what do we do with that? What do we do with that in our minds? Who's teaching us how to like relate to that? More and more is starting to come to the table, so to speak, culturally and in our world. But they've been refining that process for thousands of years. And so, they have some value to share there. And it just really helped me in this place where I felt so broken and raging and betrayed, and helped me to start to heal and come back to a sense of safety and wholeness and goodness again.
mm.
So, yeah, that's one. I'll share another, but is that
That's
looks
really beautiful. Yeah, no, thank you. I really, I love that. And feel like we could have an entire discussion just on that. So, but thank you for sharing that. Like, okay, keep going. I'll let you.
Yeah. And then the other thing that comes to mind is Encountering Love Your Brain, which is an organization that helps folks who've experienced brain injury or their caregivers. And a friend of mine turned me on to a film about Kevin Pierce, who was a snowboarder in an accident. And I watched that, and then I got online and saw that they had classes and a retreat, and I applied for a retreat, and I went to an in-person brain injury retreat. And it's so funny. I remember that first day my aunt drove me out, and I was a little nervous and, not knowing what to expect, and being with a big group of people I didn't know who all have had concussions or brain injuries. And but it didn't take long before you just melted. Like, this organization, I cannot recommend them enough. They are so heart-centered, compassion-centered, the kindness that's like integrated into all of their programs, into their messaging. It's such a caring community. And by the time 4 or 5 days, the retreat ended, you're looking around at everyone. And at first, at first I was a little nervous, but you're just in love with everyone. And you're seeing people with different versions of your own symptoms reflected back to you. And you're like, oh my gosh, they're so amazing. They're so beautiful. So that starts to seep in and to yourself. And I feel like when I left that retreat and that experience, I walked away with a huge amount of shame and embarrassment just lifted. And I didn't even realize I was carrying it. But it just normalized everything for me. And I was like, oh, I've just been comparing myself to the wrong people. These people are amazing, and we've all had the same injury. And oh, I get it. I learned so much about myself, and I learned to love myself by loving them. It's funny how that works.
Yes, right? That's actually really cool how that happens. Thank you. That love myself by loving them. Um, and that's so beautiful. Thank you for that amazing endorsement.
Yeah.
So love your brain, people.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's so awesome that it was so impactful and such a life-changing um, part of that journey for you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And then
Um,
later, I loved it so much that I went on to do their trainings and become a facilitator. So now I get to uh, lead discussion groups and yoga classes where people join, and we talk about resilience and mindfulness and all these amazing things that helps the community.
that's
So
so awesome. How just curious, how frequently do they have these like groups or support things? What?
yeah, they have them quarterly and they're free,
Mm,
which is really nice because a lot of people in our community, are low income, or, resources are tight. So
yeah,
for the retreats, they ask us to fundraise to help raise funds. Otherwise it's a lot of sponsors and donations from community and outside support. And uh,
that's
but yeah, everyone check them out. They're really amazing support. And
perfect.
also for caregivers, they have affinity groups that caregivers get together um, to have their own support, which is so important.
Yes, yes, that's awesome. And yeah, it is so important. It really can make a huge difference. So, um, for that, yeah, support for the caregivers. I love that. Thank you. And we'll link to them in the show notes as well. So, thank you for that. I would love to have you share, if you don't mind, how you're doing today. Kind of, are there things that you're still dealing with? What keeps you going? Where are we at this moment?
Yeah, I would say, I've had to accept that I'll likely live with this injury. And it's more of like it's forced me to change how I live, and that I will probably manage symptoms like most people who have injuries or go through diseases and so forth. Like, yes, there's recovery, but when I don't get enough sleep, or I don't eat well, or I have too much stress or I push myself. All these things really can bring up symptoms again. But if I'm on my game and I take care of myself and I find balance, then I'm really highly functioning. Most people can't even tell. Um, but I occasionally I can get migraines. I can, sometimes my brain will just stop working if I've just been pushing and pushing. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But I have a great life and community and activities. I'm able to work. I'm able to do a lot more than some people who've had injuries and maybe less than others. So, yeah, but it's all good. I've really come to terms, and I'm continuing to try to keep refining,
Mm.
healing, keep living, finding
Yeah.
a way. Mhm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. And can you share, I know like you said it's forced me to change how I live. I know that um that's hard and that might be hard for people to hear who are like maybe earlier on and like I don't want to change how I live, right? Like there's stress and frustration in that, which is completely understandable. But how do you um how did you come to being okay with that and how have you maintained and it just I'd love to hear your thoughts. My question in the past has been how have you maintained hope through this?
Mhm.
And sometimes people are like, well, I didn't have hope all the time, and that's okay. So like what is your idea on hope as well? I know that was
Yeah, it's such a great question. And it's I just want to totally validate all those places that we journey through, I don't want this. I don't want this. All the resistance, all the lack of hope, all those feelings like, we kind of have to live it out. We can't, and it's going to be natural. We're going to be in denial and we're going to push back and we're not going to want it. And that's the journey that we're all invited into, even if we haven't had a brain injury. That's life, right?
yes,
So,
that is
yeah, it's been helpful for me actually a lot to kind of bridge the similarities in the journey that we're all on and depersonalize the brain injury part of it
mm,
and go, oh, wait, actually, yep, my mom and my friends, they're actually encountering the same struggle.
mm,
And yeah, I have these unique, particular struggles with these injuries, but actually, these themes are something that we're all going through. And by bridging to, oh, we're all in this together, it's
mm,
all for all, it equalizes. It really brings you to this place of like, oh gosh, and it takes some of the personal out of it. So
mm,
that's helped a lot. And I think also just having a lot of loving, kind people who validated me and didn't try to like tell me, oh, don't be a victim. I really don't like that.
mm,
I feel like our culture is so scapegoats the victim and like, we got hurt. Of course, we're going to have a boo-boo and we're going to be like, ouch, like, why is that bad? We need to just stop that. Just stop it.
mm,
Like,
mm.
it's okay to feel bad and to not uh, to have resistance and not want something, so I feel like just getting the proper support and yeah, and then also really uh, focusing on all the things that are working in our lives and that we are grateful for, and all the things at the same moment that pain is happening or we're suffering, but there are things that are working for us, like our breath is still going. Our heart is still beating. There's so much that's actually working well. And so it's like it's been a big journey. So many things at different moments.
Yes, and I know those are big questions, and I really appreciate the things that you're sharing. I think are so beautiful and profound, and I hope that uh, they're resonating with people. I one of the things that you said was sometimes you have to live it out, and I just want to point out that it is possible to do that. Sometimes it might not feel like it, but there are like you're a good example of like there's goodness still on the other side. It is livable, and yeah, I don't know. I appreciate all the things that you're sharing here. Let's dive into what you're doing now because I love your perspective and the things that you've learned and your wisdom in sharing it. And and I know you're doing things with the craniosacral therapy. I know you talked about the Love Your Brain yoga and you're working with them as well. And what I guess first off, let's just talk about craniosacral for a second because I don't think I've actually dived in with somebody who is a practitioner of that on the podcast yet. Although I've heard a lot about it and I'm familiar with it. I've never experienced it myself or practiced it. So I would be interested in hearing like what is it? Can you explain it to people and why does it help?
Oh goodness, that's a great question. Even us who have studied it, it still has the, I'll just say right off the bat, it still has such a mysterious, you could even say magical quality about it because you walk in feeling one way and you leave feeling quite different. And it's like, what did you do? You just barely put your hands on me. What just happened? Um, like I said in the, like you read in the bio, people often feel restored and nourished and reset and clear, and not always things come up too. But what is it? Okay, so cranial sacral is a modality that emerged out of the osteopath tradition, and they're working with bones and tissues, and they're working with the whole body. But there are a couple different forefathers that kind of branched off and developed different lineages of cranial sacral therapy. The lineage that I study in is biodynamic craniosacral therapy, and it's really focused on a few different things. I would say the nervous system and helping the nervous system release stress and learn to re-regulate itself, helping the body to release tension patterns that have been stored in the tissues, in the muscles, in the bones, in the energetic system. And it also works with something called the breath of life. And it's this idea that there is a sort of a breath or a tide that moves through all of life. You can think of it like the tides of the ocean. There's this like movement that goes out, this inhalation, and this exhalation that comes back in. Well, this movement is going through our bodies at the same time, and all of our tissues and organs and bones are in rhythm to that. So as a cranial sacral therapist, we're tuning in to that, to the breath of life. We're tuning into the nervous system. We're tuning into the tissues, and we're just also helping the system slow down and get really quiet and still, and helping the system. In doing that, the body will start releasing tension patterns, illness, issues, and so forth. And so we're just sort of helping that process and moving to different areas depending on what we're picking up or what the client has shared. And I would say it's really interesting because, someone might come in explaining that they've hurt their knee and their shoulder, and that's what they want. They're coming in for support with. And as a practitioner, we hear that and we also let it go to the background, and we just keep doing the work to help the body's system drop into these deep places of stillness and rest. And then their intelligence, their health intelligence will prioritize what their body thinks is needed. So it might have to relate to that stub toe in second grade verse, and that toe that has been holding all this tension all these years. That might need to release first. And then it may need to go up to the hip. Or, there's all these different things that our bodies are carrying. And sometimes the body needs to release some of these tension patterns before it can build up enough resource to go towards some of these heavy hitter issues. So usually there's definitely relief, and it may be in different ways or areas than you might anticipate.
That is super, super interesting. So how did, okay, well, and what does it like look like? If someone was listening to this, they've never heard of
Yeah.
craniosacral before, what should they expect if they go into a,
They go in, they're going to be fully clothed. Take your shoes off, lay on a table with maybe sheets or blankets. And I often will start under the ankles, really a gentle hold under the ankles. And then I just start to settle my own nervous system, and their system will start to drop too. And we just keep dropping together. Their mirror neurons will copy mine.
Mm,
And so then once their body starts to get really still, then I might move to different places. So it's really it's very gentle. It's not like deep tissue. I'm not getting in there. In
mm,
fact, I'm really working with keeping myself very neutral. I'm not leaning into their system with my energy. I'm not boring in with my eyes or my thoughts. I'm like actually widened back and just in a really neutral place. And that's super important for all of us who've had trauma, which most of us have. Trauma is really contracted and guarded and protected. And our systems can actually feel when someone is leaning in energetically. We kind of pull back. When you feel like someone's standing too close or they're boring down with you on with their eyes.
uh,
So that's an important part too, is where I'm maintaining this place of neutrality and letting their body come to me and reveal what it's ready to heal.
mm. So it sounds like this is more on the like energetic healing side. Is it, my impression of it when I learned about it, I think I learned about it for the first time in OT school or like was introduced to the idea of it. Like it was more about like helping the um like fluid moving through the system. Is that right? Or is it, tell me,
That's
is
a
it
part
more
of
on
it.
the physical
Yeah.
side or the energetic side, or is it a good mix of both?
I'm so glad you're bringing this up because how it feels, the experience that people walk away with, feels like a big energy shift. Like, whoa, I can take a breath. And yet, it is working with physical issues. It just does it from more of an energetic approach, because my work as a practitioner, at least in this lineage of craniosacral, is really working with my energy and my nervous system and settling that.
Mm,
And so because of that, that does translate, that does transfer to the experience of the client. Yet someone can come in with back pain or sciatica or neck or shoulder pain and walk away and, thank you. And it may take several sessions, having it's very cumulative. So the work is really supportive to do multiple, and then you'll start to see things really shift.
mm,
Um, but yeah, it does also work with the cerebral spinal fluid that's made and stored in the brain and envelops the spinal column.
mhm.
I'll just mention one last thing. Most people, when I start at the feet, people are like, "What? Well, why aren't you at my head? It's cranial sacral, So they assume it's only for the head and the sacrum or the spine,
Mhm.
but it's actually a whole body treatment. It's a whole
Very
body treatment. So yeah, it does work with the clearing cerebral spinal fluid and so much more.
Okay, thank you. And I'm curious, how did you first get introduced to it? Like, what was your first experience with it like?
Well, right after my plane crash, I was working with three physical therapists. There were three in this office in my hometown in Alaska, and I would see whoever was available, and I would work with all three of them. One of them was also a craniosacral therapist, so he would bring this work into our physical therapy sessions, and he would hold my head or different body parts at a certain point, and it just was like, oh, whatever you did. And so then, like I said, I moved to different places, and there was always someone who
Mm,
practiced it. And once I got that taste of the support, I just kept seeking it out, and yeah, it's been
that's
so
awesome.
wonderful.
Yeah, I've definitely heard good things about it. That people have found some benefit from it for sure. So I appreciate that. Thank you for educating us more on craniosacral therapy. Um, so I know that you talked about the Love Your Brain, and is there anything you want to say about brain injury groups that
Oh,
I,
sure.
do
Yeah.
you Do you host them yourself or just have been a part of them? Tell me.
I do. So I facilitate with Love Your Brain, which are online. But I started, I guess it's been a couple years now. I started a local in-person group in
Mm.
Sebastopol, California, where I live. And we call it the BIG, the Brain Injury Gathering. But you know,
Oh.
we had like it just I don't know. In our one of our first couple meetings, that name just kind of overrose. We're like, yeah, we're the BIG. It was, so it's and it's just been really focused on all of it, joy, what we're going through, the struggle, the challenge, all of it. So it's really it's been discussion based. It's also been experiential. We usually start with a grounding meditation. We end with one. We all do a check-in, what's going on, where we're at, and then certain themes will emerge. Sometimes I'll come with themes, or I'll send. In the beginning, I was sending out worksheets and having people write things and come with the worksheets. But then it's really evolved into just kind of a spontaneous, like, what's in the field between who shows up and
Mhm.
what emerges, what themes. And it's funny because, we're centering around brain injury, but it goes so deep into life and the meaning of life and these deeper themes that everybody's growing with and learning about in life, this journey of life. So it's been so beautiful. And I keep talking about doing some online groups as well for folks that live afar or can't make it in person. And so it's in the works and is really based on interdependence. If I get a lot of people who want to do that, then I'll create some time. So
Cool. Well, yes. And then we'll, at the end here, we'll have you share how people can let you know if they want in on that. Because I do feel like the group support can be so helpful. So I love that you're offering that for people. It's been helpful for you, right?
yeah, that's right. I've been in a couple groups, brain injury groups. One in particular was for folks women who are 5 years out from their brain injury, and meeting monthly for a couple years now. And it's just amazing to have that place where you build relationship with people and where you can talk about it and you can just be yourself and can really grow through the struggles together.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Again, that healing happens in connection and people like we are important on each other's recovery journeys. And so I think I want people to know that there are places out there, like there are online ones, there are in-person ones, like be open to it, look for it. There are things out there and free ones too. Like I think probably most of them are free, but there's
Most are free or donation, and there's like, paid programs out there too, but there's the whole range. And I want to encourage people like it never hurts to ask, for a sliding scale or if that option's available. I think, the heart of people is good, and if people can provide scholarship or a sliding scale, they will.
yeah, yeah, love that. Thank you. Um, and I understand that you do coaching as well. Is that right? You're doing
I do. Yeah.
what are some of uh the themes that end up coming up a lot when you're in your coaching with people?
Um, Particular to brain injury, let's see. Things like we've spoke of, the acceptance journey. One that comes to mind that's super funny that now we laugh about it, but it's this comment that we get a lot in this community of like, "Oh, you look great." And now we laugh at it, but that's bugged people a lot, in some of our groups or coaching one-on-one because it's like, yeah, but that totally invalidates my experience and they can't see. It's not visible, but I'm having all these challenges and yes, I look great, but so it's like that intersection. So we've had to like really workshop that one and peel it apart and realize that people are just grateful to see us and people love us and they're reflecting our goodness and that it's actually not personal to our injury or what we're experiencing. It's more expressing something of them and their value for us. But so that's been a funny theme. And yeah, I think also just like normalizing the journey has been so important in coaching and in the groups, like just knowing that it's not just me experiencing this and this is a normal thing and really empowering for people to learn like what's aphasia, communication issues, what is that, what are the how does that show up? And oh, this is a thing connected to brain injury. I'm not going crazy. This is a symptom. Oh, great, there's hope because I can actually find support for it or just normalize it. So much can heal when we normalize something and move the resistance and just go, oh, okay, that's what that is.
Yes, amen to that. It is so powerful to realize, oh, I'm not crazy, I'm not lazy. This is real. Like it is real, and you're not the only one. So that is very validating and very helpful, and something that I've seen in my coaching as well, and in talking to people. And that's part of why I do the podcast is like I want people to know this is real and there are a lot of people who are also dealing with it and there are good resources out there. So, and you are one of these resources. So thank you, Jenny, for everything you're doing. And how can people hear more from you or work with you or learn more about you?
Yeah, I have a website. You can check out my website. It's Jennifer Foltz, JENNIFER, Foltz, FOLTZ.com, or hello at Jennifer Foltz is my email. So reach out, let me know how I can support you, or if you want to chat, or yeah, anything. So, and I just want to also say, Bethany, I found your podcast randomly a couple years ago, and so grateful for you and the work you're doing in this platform. You're really touching so many lives on all sides of this community, and thank you so much. It
Thank
means a lot.
you. That make me emotional here. Thank you. It feels good to know that it's doing something good. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And thank you for what you're doing and for sharing all of this today. I know it will be helpful for people. So
I
thank
hope
you.
so.
I'm so glad you listened in today. I hope you have gained some helpful insights and inspiration regarding dealing with and recovering from concussions. My goal is to create more awareness and education about concussions and the fact that there is so much that can be done to improve life after someone has had one. Help me spread the message by liking, commenting, rating, and subscribing to this podcast, and share it with others who would benefit from hearing it. There are more resources available on my website. And again, if you or someone you love would benefit from concussion coaching, sign up for a free consultation using the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Thank you. See you next time, and take good care of that amazing brain of yours.